Hi, Manu from Healing with Manu. In this video, I will talk to you about a very effective technique to heal any body part, and it's called the hand pyramid, like this. I stumbled upon this technique. Well, at the time I didn't know it was a technique, but I stumbled upon it when I was 17 and I was in Oaxaca in the south of Mexico. And my tummy was not right, and I desperately needed to go to the toilet, but I couldn't because there were no toilets around. So I had to make my way back to the house I lived in, and I don't know what took me or what took over me, but basically I started doing this hand gesture, and then it would just like stop my digestive issues. So it was a bit weird because, I was on the bus and walking on the streets and people would look at me in a weird way. And it's only decades later that I discovered its power and why I was doing it and what it did to me, really. So in this video, I'm going to have there will be two parts, basically. One is a bit of a physics explanation of what happens. And then in the second part, I will show you how to do this pyramid hand gesture. So a little caveat: I'm not a physicist, I'm not someone who knows much about physics, but I do believe that physics and spirituality, or physics and energetics, should serve one another. So I'm going to try to combine both of them, and hopefully by the time you've listened to my explanation about the physical world, then you will be all the more likely to buy into the metaphysical application of the technique. All right. So first, there are 15 countries in the world that have got pyramids. 15. So some of them are in the US. There are some in Mesoamerica, like with the Aztecs, and there are also some with the Incas and the Mayas, Central and South America. There are some in Europe, in Bosnia, in France, in the Mauritius Islands. Anyway, I don't know them all, but I also know that there are lots in China, and obviously, well, I shouldn't say obviously, but I'm sure you've heard of the ones in Egypt. So before I dive into the pyramid and what happens inside them, I'd like to talk to you about what happens above them. So there are cosmic rays that come from outer space, and they are high energy particles, and they are 99% protons. And then they come from stars, from galaxies, from supernova explosions. In addition to that, you also have cosmic rays coming from the sun. So those cosmic rays coming from the universe form what they call the ionic current. Ionic comes from the word an ion. An ion is an atom, a molecule that has lost or gained an electron. So the cosmic rays come down or surround Earth, and they actually have like a positive charge, a plus charge. So they are like an anode. When you've got a battery in the car and you've got a plus and a minus, well, let's imagine that the universe sends a source of energy, and that source of energy is the plus. And as you know, in any battery, you need the minus. So the minus will be Earth. Okay, so it would be like the cathode ion. Sorry, I'm using the word ion, but Earth is full of negative ions. And negative ions are actually good for life growth, for health, for symbiosis. So on the one hand, you've got the cosmic rays with their anodic ionic current, and then you've got that current that comes from Earth full of iron ore, full of negative ions that are actually very positive for health. And then in the middle, you've got the pyramids, or a pyramid. So what happens? Well, what happens is that imagine that this is the pyramids here, and then you've got the apex here. So let's say my middle fingers here at the apex. What happens is that this apex there actually points, when you're going to do the practice, you have to point it to the north. because what happens in any magnetic field, you've got they attract each other, like north and south exist as a pair, and they want to catch up with each other. So here, the apex of the pyramid is basically the north, and it wants to go down to the south, which is inside the pyramid here. Does it make sense? And then at the same time, you've got an electric charge that is actually coming from the top here, and then the electric charge, like I said before, is positive, coming from the ionosphere, which is between 80 and 700 k's above Earth. And then you've got the negative charge that is coming from Earth, so from under the pyramid, and it just goes into the atmosphere, and then they meet inside the pyramid. So you've got two forces at stake here. You've got the magnetic field coming through the apex here, which is like an antenna tuning in into the source of energy coming from the cosmic rays. And then you've got the negative ions that are coming from underground. And then what they do is that they actually meet in the middle. So in the middle, you've got a pressure that happens, and then you've got those electrons that start orbiting, and they start increasing. And as they increase, they are expanding. And as they're expanding, there's even, an even higher circulation. And then as there's more circulation and absorption, then you've got more radiation coming out of it. And then they bounce against the walls of the pyramid, and then they bounce back to the middle. If we look at the word, at the etymology of the word pyramid, it comes from the Greek, which is pyros, and then mid. So you've got the word pyros in pyromaniac, someone who likes to set ablaze places, or pyrotechnics, when you've got fireworks. So the word pyramid means fire, and then you've got mid, which means in the midst, in the middle. So it's fire in the middle. So when you've got those electrons that are orbiting super fast in the middle and then bouncing against their walls and then coming back, they create a centropic 0-point energy. Centropic meaning that there is order, there is symbiosis, there is balance happening inside, and it's a massive source of energy. Not only that happens inside the pyramid as well, but also the 5 corners of the pyramid, right? So you've got the base with its 4 corners, and then the apex at the top here. They also radiate towards the center, right? So it's like nano radiating waves that are actually hitting the center and heating it up. All right, and then in turn, that heat from the middle goes out through the 4 corners, the 5 corners of the pyramid, and they radiate out, and they form like an orb around the pyramid. It's like a 3D globe of harmonic vibrations, and it is like a containment bubble. That is very much subject to the influence of celestial events like the sun, the moon, and even the acoustic vibration of the air. So within that sphere, within that 3D sphere, you've got a load of negative ions. So really, if I were to sum up the process, the scientific process that happens is that you've got plus cosmic rays coming from the ionosphere that come down through the apex here, all right, and it's got like the right sort of angular momentum, and then you've got negative ions coming from Earth. Just to tell you about the good stuff about the positive ions is that, for example, the Japanese talk about the benefits of forest bathing. They call it Shinrin Nyoku. And basically they recommend people who have got depression or anxiety to walk through the forest, because the forest is full of those negative ions. Or when you go past a waterfall, or you by a river, or you at the sea and the waves are crashing down, it just shakes off, it just loosens up those electrons, and then one of those atoms, those atoms and molecules around those natural elements discharge an electron, and then they cling on to whatever is needed, and they form something very positive for nature and for the human body, for growth in general. So it is no wonder too that quite a lot of Native American Indians have got practices for people when they are sick, and they put them into what they call earth pits or sweat lodges, and they're actually buried underground. Next time you happen to be at the beach, I would recommend for you to dig a hole and put your whole body inside it, just above your head, and then stay in it for 1 hour, and you'll see when you come out of the sand, you're gonna feel quite light, quite cleansed, quite mentally clear and bodily loose and fluid. Anyway, just to say that the earth is actually full of that negative ion charge, and then so basically it's a whole ionization process. So negative from the universe, positive from the universe and negative from the earth, and then they meet inside that pyramid. Now, if you look at the Egyptian pyramids, they've got an angle of 51.8 degrees, and apparently it's the perfect angle for high voltage, because the pyramids were actually a place where they could generate electricity. So this is what happens. It's basically two electromagnetic waves, one coming from the universe, one coming from Earth, meeting in the middle, and then they cancel out. And as they cancel out, they actually discharge electricity through the apex here, and also scalar waves. Now, scalar waves is basically are waves that transcend time and space, and they are faster than the speed of light. And they are those waves that actually the product of 0-point energy that happens inside the pyramid. So this is what happens. So inside that pyramid here, in the very center, this is where 0-point energy or ground state energy happens. And the benefits are multiple. So I know that the Russians reproduced the pyramids of Egypt in their own country, and they realized that there were lots of benefits happening at the health level. So, for example, it purifies the water, and as you know, we are 60-70% of water. It preserves organic matter. No wonder that they found seeds inside the pyramids that were intact after a few thousand years. It helps with the oxygen intake, so it enhances that. It helps with depression, with anxiety. It helps with cellular regeneration. It helps with quite a range of physical, biological things. So this is what happens inside the pyramid. I'm not going to talk about, like in the Egyptian pyramids, they had pink quartz and granite and limestone. They all played sort of their magnetic role. This video is already quite long as it is, so I'm not going to talk about that. But basically, when you are doing this practice here with your hands, you're actually replicating what happens inside a big pyramid. So let's have a talk about the practice now. So what you're going to do is that you're going to put your hands like this, and I know some of you will look like, hey Manu, this is not like a perfect pyramid, because if you look at it this way, this is not perfect. But it does not matter. What matters is that you're going to visualize a pyramid, and this is going to be just an extension of your visualization. So you're going to put this against your heart, okay? Don't know if you can see it, but you know where your heart is. So you're going to put it this way. You're going to be quite relaxed. You're going to point your fingers towards the north. You're going to close your eyes, and then you're going to visualize yourself within the pyramid, with the apex at the top of your head going all the way down to the floor where you are sitting. You cannot do that lying down. you're going to visualize a white pyramid that you are under. And then what you're going to visualize is that you're going to visualize a smaller pyramid. By the way, my hand here is against my heart because the heart has got the highest electromagnetic charge from the body. So, you know, the electromagnetism coming out of the heart is from 3 to 6 feet around it. It's huge. So we're going to try to utilize that force, that electromagnetic power. So pointing to the north, you are under a white pyramid, and then you're going to visualize a pink pyramid, a small pink pyramid. Why pink? Because pink is the master healing color. Whenever you have aggression, anger, emotional imbalance, and then you are after compassion, love, self-acceptance, then pink is your best color. And then what you're going to do is that wherever you've got an affected body part, and if it is your mind, then you're going to use your mind as your affected body part. And then you're going to place a pink pyramid, a small pink pyramid on that body part. And then you're going to make it rotate, spin it anti-clockwise. Why anti-clockwise? Because whenever you want to expel negative energy, negative emotions, traumas, anything negative, you go anti-clockwise. So you close your eyes. I'm just going to take you through it now so that I get to repeat the process, and then maybe you're doing it with me now. Your hands are in a pyramid fashion facing north. You are under a pyramid with the apex at the top of your head and the four corners around you wherever you are seated. And then you imagine a pink pyramid spinning counterclockwise that you are putting on the area of your body that is not balanced. You spin that pink pyramid until the pain scrambles. And that's it. So don't ask me how many times you do that. Basically, I mean, I did it just yesterday with a client, and within 2-3 minutes, that was it. The pain was completely gone. So if it hasn't gone just straight away, just keep practicing this. So wherever you are walking or whatever you're doing throughout the day, picture that pyramid, that you are under that big white pyramid around your body and that big sphere around it, right? Because I was telling you that each corner of the pyramid just emits radiation, which forms that sphere around you. And then also that little pink pyramid going anti-clockwise over your affected area, and let it go in and then spin, 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 spin. Sometimes, depending on the mood, I teach my clients to breathe through it as well. So you blow your breath, which is the force of life, and you imagine that going into your affected body area. Okay, all right. Sorry, that was a bit of a long video today. All right, go to work. Practice that.